From the many stories on the internet, reaching ghosts, goblins, demons, and even insane people. The stories that are either written to be scary or tell an interesting story based on real life. This is EdwardGYT 2008.
For the record, be careful what you wish, because you may not like what you want to see. I was a fan of Thomas and Friends when I was a little kid in elementary school. Don't ask, I was autistic and a train enthusiast. Anyways, the internet was still a new thing back then, and YouTube was made 4 years after its first release on the internet. As I looked around YouTube, I decided to watch some Thomas videos because I was bored. I decided to watch a Thomas and Friends review since I was feeling a wave of nostalgia. The video was quite honestly boring as the guy who made the video didn't seem too energetic. So I scrolled down in the comic section and tried to read what other people had to say. The comments were just mostly how they liked his opinion and why they agree with him, and some were just love messages. One comment in particular caught my attention, and it was a comment where a guy claims that he has a link to a website where you can watch actual episodes of Thomas and Friends for free. I asked the guy if I could have the link to it because my gullible ass would fall for something like this. He commented back in just a few minutes with the link to the website. Given the fact I was 15 at the time, I didn't pay any notice to the risk this website had, and judging that it was from a sketchy comment. It was a good thing that this site had no viruses. The site in particular was made in 2002, and it looks like it hadn't aged well today in 2009. I looked around on the website and saw a couple episodes that I remember watching when I was a little. Watching them was like going down memory lane. The only real problem I had was the fact that it had a low contrast and the brightness was very dim. It didn't matter since it didn't affect my view of the episode. I searched up the 6th season of the show, as that is my favorite season. It was the newest season available for the site, which, keep in mind, it was made in 2002. As I scrolled through the episodes, the list came to a halt with the description and a link as normal for the site. The description was of the episode, Thomas and the Jet Engine, and it said it was the newest episode from Thomas and Friends, which isn't true nowadays. Man, they really forgot to make some changes, or maybe this site was probably abandoned. I opened the link and it led to a video pop-up with the basic white play button in the middle. I got up and went to go grab a snack in the pantry. Then the intro played in the background, which startled me at first. I never hit the play button as I left my room. Thank God my parents weren't home either because it was extremely loud. I forgot to turn on the volume. I'm so stupid. I paused the video wondering how it did that, but then again some videos play by themselves when you first load it up, so I must have forgotten to pause it before I left. I expected nothing from it as it began to play the intro and cut straight to the episode. Again, the video had a low contrast and a dim brightness level. Gordon was shown to pull the express as the narrator explained how Gordon was the fastest engine on Sodor. The next scene showed him coming to a stop at Knapford, which was the big station. The other engines were there, and they were engaged in a conversation on how Gordon was the fastest engine on Sodor. Sir Thomas had showed up and explained that there was a jet engine being delivered at Brandon Docks. Of course, since this show was about Thomas, he would be the one to pull the jet engine. At first, Thomas declined the offer, but then he changed his mind when he thought about being faster than Gordon. It's a basic Thomas episode, it's not really surprising. Thomas was shown shoving down the line, passing 2 stations before entering a branch line, which I assume is the line to Brandon Docks. When Thomas arrived, the jet engine was already being unloaded by Cranky. The jet engine looked a little bit weird. I don't remember what it looked like in the actual episode, but something was very questionable about it. It looked a lot longer than I remembered, but that could be me. Thomas coupled up and then started to get impatient because Frankie was taking his time. Then it got to the scene where he knocked the switch by accident and it started up by itself. Thomas flew down the rails at light speed and was not able to stop. At first, Thomas was scared, but then he realized this is what he always wanted. Thomas flew past multiple stations and was shown flying past James, Henry, Percy, Duck, and even Bertie the bus. It showed the scene where Gordon was pulling the express as he boasted to himself how he was the fastest engine on Sodor. Sorry if I said it 3 times. Thomas flew past Gordon, and they both enter a tunnel, with Thomas passing Gordon. They both came out the other end of the tunnel, and this is where it cut to the next scene, which made me feel very unsettled to this day. Tidmouth Station was shown as Edward was shunting a fuel tanker train to the mainland. I started to get creeped out because I knew something was now completely off about it. I saw Thomas rounding a bend as he noticed that he was switched onto the siding where the tankers were. The narrator's voice was now starting to glitch out to previous lines he already said in the episode. Thomas screamed like an actual person in agony as he flew straight into the tankers, which exploded on impact. That was not a special effects explosion. That was a literal explosion I just saw. Thomas's model went flying into the station, just barely hitting Edward, but hitting the wooden people on the station platform. The narrator spoke one last time saying, "Luckily no one was hurt." But the aftermath scene said otherwise. It was very graphic for a kid's show, and Thomas's model was shown to be heavily damaged from the impact. And his face was bleeding like those gory claymation videos you see nowadays. This may sound cliche, but the bleeding on what was left of Thomas's face was really realistic, and it looked like it was way ahead of every claymation video I've ever seen. The whole station was on fire, and Edward looked more shocked than me. The next scene showed a flashback of clips from the older seasons as a sad but unsettling music box of the theme song played. The final scene showed a scrapped model of Thomas sitting in the smelter's yard. Darkness consumed the screen as it showed white text saying, "Due to the lack of respect people had with the Thomas and the Magic Railroad movie, we had enough of making Thomas episodes that were now once based on the children's book series made by the now deceased Wilbur Ralph Audrey. You people really don't seem to care to anyone or the dedication towards our fans but yourself. We want to make more seasons for the franchise and make Thomas a pop culture series for children. But thanks to you critics, that won't be happening. I, Britt Offcroft, will now be getting rid of all of the models and sets that we made and burn the studio to the ground since that's what you guys really want." The text faded out as one last text faded in from the blackness along with the Thomas logo that said, "I hope you're happy now." This was a bit shocking, but I knew it didn't happen since they are making more seasons, and they've fully switched to CGI as of this year. My only assumption is that Britt Allcroft lost all of her marbles because of the really hateful comments people have been making about the movie and the show itself, and that she planned on killing off Thomas altogether with this episode. But my theory is that she calmed down and changed her mind after the meltdown. I don't know who helped her calm her down, but that's all I could think of why she made this alternate episode. Since I was still on the video pop-up, I decided to open up a new tab and searched up YouTube. When I was on YouTube, I searched up Thomas and the Jet Engine episode, and it played a full version of the episode, not like the low contrast and dim brightness video. While I was watching the video, I started to notice so many differences from the final version and the alternate ending. and I'll make a whole list of them. Number 1. Thomas never refused to take the jet engine at first, as he was eager to do it in the first place. The scene where Thomas was going to Brandon Docks, the stations Thomas passed were not in the final version of the episode, and neither was the junction to the branch line. 3. I knew the jet engine looked way longer than the one in the final version. It was a much more detailed and shorter version. Number 4. Duck was not in the final version and was not even mentioned once by the narrator, which made me think he was supposed to be for the supposed last episode of Thomas and Friends. Number 5. The ending. Oh my god, the godforsaken ending. It's not like the one in the alternate ending. The ending played out like this. After Thomas and Gordon shoved out of the tunnel they went in, it did not cut to Tidmouth Station, probably because the set was probably burned down in the alternate footage. Instead, the jet engine cooled down and Thomas was able to gain control of it. He pulled up to Nafford Station and pulled up alongside Gordon. He apologized for overtaking him and the engines had a good laugh. I was about to go tell the man about this disturbing ending of Thomas and the jet engine, but when I went to the exact same video I watched, the comment was deleted. I couldn't upload the video to YouTube myself to prove it, as I don't want to face a lawsuit against the new owners of Thomas and Friends. I'm honestly dumbfounded by this, as I now know the real ending, and I always kept thinking to myself every time I watched this episode, that's not Thomas the Tank Engine. He's still at the smelter's yards, burned, damaged, and covered in rust.